All right, item 10B, receive a report and adopt resolution amending bicycle and pedestrian committee bylaws.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I will keep this report brief as I know we still have a number of items on the agenda tonight. As the City Council knows, the BPC has been a committee for about a decade now. However, for the last year or so, there was a number of issues they had with maintaining attendance and maintaining a quorum at these meetings. Based on this, staff came to the City Council a couple months ago, and based on our recommendation, the Council directed to change several members that were commission members that sat on the BPC to members at large. After a slow start, we actually had a good recruitment, and a number of people applied for the BPC, and a number of those people were in front of the City Council tonight interviewing, and we actually had a couple more that were also interested but unable to make it tonight. So along with the recruitment, we also are proposing several changes to the BPC bylaws in order to encourage attendance and increase the probability that you'll see a quorum at a majority of meetings. Briefly go over the 5. The first is changing the frequency of meetings from a monthly meeting schedule to a bi-monthly meeting schedule. The second is to allow the committee by a majority vote to set the start time annually. They had noticed that people had fluctuating work schedules, and that'll allow to increase the number of people that attend each meeting. Third is to allow a youth representative to serve if a youth representative wants to serve. It won't be mandatory, it'll be an option though in the future. Fourth is to allow a non-resident to serve. So we had someone to interview tonight. We have 2 mass transit stations in San Bruno. We have a large number of employers, and there's a lot of people that either bike directly here from surrounding communities or actually take in BART or Caltrain and then walk or ride their bicycle to their work. And then fifth, actually changing the acronym used. Instead of BPC, be the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, or BPAC. That's more consistent with countywide committees as well as regional committees with the same authority. You also notice that tonight I put in front of you a red line version. After we distributed the council packet, we found we were alerted to a number of changes that had to be made, more consistency type changes and updates to make this consistent with both other bylaws within the city of San Bruno and current procedures for the BPAC. So at this time, I can take any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair. 3 things. One is just a comment, 2 questions. One on regular meetings. I know there's a desire to have it between the hours of 5 and 7, and each year make a determination of what that time start will be.
Correct.
My question is for continuity and consistency, shouldn't we say it's, let's say, 6 o'clock and less change? Therefore, I mean, because every year then it would be, well, what time is the meeting? Well, last year it was 5. I think it's 6. I don't know. We have to ask. So I don't know if it's better to establish a set time, and then it can be reviewed, and the committee can make a change. That was one comment. Second thing is on absences from meeting, section 3.11. I noticed that it is changed, so that was good. But if we're having 6 meetings a year and we're going to allow an absence of up to 4, I think that's over 50%. I don't think that's a very good ratio. I would at least maybe recommend that go down to 3, at least. And then the final thing, I was going to say that I want to appreciate staff, because I know I sat up here before when we had the personnel board about reducing amount of members when we went from 5 to 3. Didn't support that, of course. But here, instead of saying, well, we're having a hard time getting members, let's go from 7 to 5, we went the extra mile, we reached out, we got citizens involved, we had them part of the process. And we're going to, hopefully, if this passes, then establish, I think, a good group of individuals who've come forward that we've interviewed tonight and 2 weeks ago. And that is what I was referencing back when we voted on personnel, is that ways to go outside the box in order to get the residents and the citizens involved.
Okay. Any comments on this item? Michael?
Through the chair, thank you. So most of my questions were just around the how much rigidity there is in the scheduling based on the bylaws, and we do dictate quite very specifically, the hours of the meetings, the duration of the meetings. I was just wondering if is that just based on precedence, or is there some legal requirement that makes us put that in the bylaws versus letting the committee decide these things as a committee and not having them in the bylaws?
So there's no legal requirement for. So for instance, I think there's two things around the start time. So there's the start time, allowing the start time between 5 and 7. It could be Councilmember Medina's suggesting that it starts at 6. I mean that's one thing. I mean it's not required, but it's generally found in all bylaws when a start time is. And then the second thing has to do with the length of the meeting. And what this does in this case, previously it said it was going to start at a certain time and end at a certain time. Since there's the fluctuating allowance for start time, we said we just specified a length of time. There's also a line in it, though, that the meeting can be extended beyond that point if committee members, want to extend it. My guess is why you find that is that it generally lays out the commitment that committee members are facing when they look through this and they're considering serving on a committee. They know that generally meetings aren't going to last more than 2.5 hours. So when they're considering whether or not to be on a committee, they have all the the general guidelines in front of them.
But say the majority of a committee decided they wanted to meet on Saturday to make it more accessible to the public and get more participation, then that would require a change to the bylaws that would then have to come back to us for them to do that?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Irene?
I'm thinking some of that is because staff has to come to these meetings and help out with them. So if they decide to do it on a Saturday, that's overtime for someone, or
It's going to be overtime anyway if they meet in the evening.
well, but a Saturday's a Saturday as opposed to 6 to 7 or something. I'm just saying that's probably why. That's probably why that's there. Plus, if we have as a council have set, like, there's personnel board and there's council meetings and there's all these other meetings, and they want to overlap at a different time, that would be a conflict as well. So I'm just saying that's probably why it's there. Anyway.
Okay. I think I can live with it. Thank you.
City Attorney, can we have some language in there that says at the pleasure of the chair or the pleasure of the majority of the board?
I think there already is language in there that allows the meeting to be extended on motion. That's not an uncommon thing. I don't know if it exists in the other bylaws, but one of the things that the council members' comments have raised for us is wanting to take a look at all of the bylaws and make sure that they're all consistent. In doing some of that research over the last day or so, we did discover a number of instances in which there were inconsistencies. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we do have templates and copies of all of them, so I anticipate we'll come back to you with some cleanup on some of the other ones as well.
Okay. So are we going to introduce the resolution with an amendment to the amendments?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I just put in those two thoughts about a definitive starting time, or a time that technically it starts, rather than leaving it vague. And then I'm making a suggestion under 3.11 that it not be 4 absences if there's 6 meetings a year. I think that needs to be reevaluated in my mind. I think 4 out of 6 is not a good showing for a year.
So you need a second on his amendment?
I would go ahead and introduce that with those two changes.
Councilmember Medina.
Wait,
Are you clear,
oh,
Irene?
no, I'm not clear. I'm sorry. Rico, are you asking for a specific time? Like, are you suggesting a time, like 6, or did you want the bylaws to reflect that the committee itself? I'm confused.
No, I guess if you're asking, can we make appointments, the committee group come together and say we'd like to meet at 6 o'clock, then I think that should be the start time. I'm okay with that because they need to get together. But I'm just saying that every year it's up for a discussion and it's between 5 and 7. I think it makes it hard. We get into a pattern. We're at 7 o'clock every second and fourth Tuesday. People know that. And so I think if it's going to be 6, say it's 6. They can certainly change it, or if we want to wait until they have their first meeting with new appointments, that's fine to set a time that it is known. I mean, I can almost quote to you when every committee, commission, board, what time and what day they meet, because that's what it is. It doesn't, next year it's not going to change. where I have to go figure out what time it is, or the resident does. So that was the reason for the
No,
specifying the hour.
I understand that part, so how do you want to word it? What are you asking? Are you,
Either we set a time now, or we allow the committee after appointment to meet. I would say, why don't we set it now, and why don't I ask the Community Development Director what time are the meetings now, and does the Community Development Department have a suggestion for a time starting?
So they typically meet at 6 o'clock. I mean, what I would suggest is that you can have a default time at 6 o'clock, but then still allow, so you have a default time within the actual bylaws, but then also allow some discretion of the committee on an annual basis to change that. But when you look at the bylaws, it's 6 o'clock, and that's what it will be.
Then why don't I suggest in this that under section 2.1, it be 6 o'clock starting time, and under section 3.11, I think it's 3.11 if I'm not mistaken, it goes from 4 to 3.
Staff clear on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm thinking 2, actually.
So you gotta introduce it.
Is that? Or unless somebody has another suggestion on that.
No, yeah. I would suggest 2, actually, out
Okay.
of 6.
I like Irene, she's tough.
Because you need continuity, and, that's some of the reason why they made
I
it 6
didn't want to push it, so
instead
I
of
went
12.
to 3 to try to meet somewhere in the center, but up to the body.
It's too unexcused.
It's 2 unexcused,
Yes, that works.
so I'm 6, unless they have a lot more meetings. Okay, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor? Okay, so we will go to 2, from 4 to 2, and 6 o'clock starting. And with those changes, I'll go ahead and introduce the resolution amending the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee bylaws.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.